A long time ago, in a village called Umaga, there was a family named Egiato. They had two daughters, Ivie and Itoha, and a son named Ovokhan. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Idemudia, lived in a modest house. Mr. Idemudia was a well-known builder in the village, while Mrs. Idemudia stayed at home to take care of the family. Although Mrs. Idemudia was a housewife, she was also a petty bead maker. They did not have much, but they managed to put food on their table every day. What kept their spirits high was the hope that their lives would improve someday, when their two daughters become high-flying professionals, as Ivy and Itohan were always at the top of their classes. However, Ovokhan, the eldest child, was different. He was slow at understanding academics. His academic struggles resulted in multiple class repetitions, which made him fall behind his younger sisters. His mother sometimes will try to explain his homeworks to him when. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. Whenever she cared, but Ovokhan did not understand why he could not perform as well as his sisters in his studies. But his sisters did not help him at all. Rather, they were cruel to him, as they would most times giggle and call him coconut head while poking him. Each time their father returned home late and tired, he was most of the time upset at the sight of Ovokhan still carrying out his house chores and struggling to read at the same time. "This boy, you are just too sluggish. The only thing he knows is to draw useless things in his books," he will say to his wife. "If I had the money to go to college, I would have been a doctor or an engineer or even a politician. I hope the gods have not cursed us with this one," poking his hands at Ovokhan. His constant chores of scrubbing the floor, washing plates, fetching water, fetching firewood, and even cooking sometimes, while struggling to finish his homework at the same time, made him take his meals very late every evening and unable to even take a bath at the end of the day, as all the water he fetched would have been used up by his lazy sisters. While Ovokhan struggled every day with his chores, his sisters, Ivy and Itohan, were allowed to focus on their studies. "Ovokhan, why are you so slow?" his mother would yell. "Hurry up and finish the dishes so you can try to study if anything will even enter this empty head of yours." While Ovokhan washed the pots, he could hear his sisters calling him names jokingly and would sometimes ask themselves, "Where is that coconut head?" As they did their homework together, Ivy and Itohan spent quality time studying and were treated better because they were smart, while Ovokhan was always tired from doing all the chores. One evening, Ivy and Itohan were with their lesson teacher, studying very seriously while Ovokhan was still outside washing their school uniforms. His hands were sore, he was tired, his body ached. He could not even open a page in his books when he was done with his chores. "Why can't you be as smart as Ivy and Itohan?" Mr. Idemudia, their father, would ask angrily when he saw Ovokhan struggling with his homework. "You are so stupid." Ovokhan's eyes filled with tears. He was certain that he was truly a curse, but he kept silent. At night, he would lie in bed, feeling sad and alone. He would wonder if he was a true son of the family or the gods forced him on his parents. Ovokhan could never quite understand why he was different from his siblings or why he struggled so much in school. He was always failing and falling short of his family's expectations. Every punishment seemed to stem from his poor academic performance, which left him feeling isolated and heartbroken. His parents and siblings did not show any affection towards him, and Ovokhan couldn't understand why they seemed to dislike him so much. It was a deep sadness he carried with him every day. At school, things were not different. Ovokhan kept to himself, sitting quietly in the corner with his head bowed, trying to disappear. He was the oldest in class due to several repetitions of the same class. The teachers made him sit at the back to avoid distractions with his presence. In class, Ovokhan avoided simple questions, even unrelated to the lessons. Ovokhan remained silent, afraid he would give the wrong answer and be laughed at. During break times, while the other children ran around playing and laughing, Ovokhan sat alone, watching from a distance. It was as if an invisible wall separated him from the joy others seemed to find so easily. This lonely existence carried on into high school when he managed to move ahead. His sense of self-worth continued to fall, both at school and at home, where he felt even more like an outcast. At home, Itoha and Ivie were already preparing to attend a prestigious university, and the whole family knew they were destined for greatness. Their teachers had helped them to secure scholarships, and they had been accepted by several universities. Meanwhile, Ovbokhan was stuck doing miniatures, washing, ironing clothes, and polishing his siblings' shoes. Anytime he dared to ask for help, his mother would scold him. Despite his best effort to study late into the night, Ovbokhan could not seem to improve his grades. He worked harder than anyone else, but it was never enough. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. His classmates mocked him, saying, "Why can't you be as smart as your siblings?" Ovbokhan could only stare helplessly at his poor test scores, wondering why his hard work never translated into success. The end of the year brought more accolades for Ivie and Itoha, who passed their exams with top marks. They were celebrated not just by the family but by the whole village, even appearing on national television stations. Neighbors came by to congratulate Mrs. Idemudia, praising her for raising such talented children. "Your children have put our village on the map," they said. Beaming with pride, Mrs. Idemudia would often talk about how the sisters would build a grand house for the family once they became doctors. When the sisters left for Lagos to begin university studies, relatives, both close and distant, helped them settle into the bustling city of Lagos. Ivie, who had hoped to become a medical doctor, later found herself not doing well in medicine, but Ovbokhan remained at home, doing nothing and feeling abandoned and unloved. It was around this time that Ovbokhan met Efosa, a new student who had recently moved to the village from the city. Like Ovbokhan, Efosa struggled with his academics, but he was brilliant with languages. The two became friends very fast, often sitting together at the back of the class. One afternoon, Efosa noticed Ovbokhan drawing in his notebook. "That's incredible!" Efosa exclaimed. "I had no idea you could draw like that. You've got talent, you know." Embarrassed, Ovbokhan quickly closed his notebook, but Efosa's words lingered in his mind. A few days later, Efosa invited Ovbokhan to his house. Efosa's family was quite upper class compared to most in the village. His father owned businesses in Lagos and his mother was starting a new venture in the village. When Ovbokhan entered their home, Efosa's mother greeted him warmly and offered him food, the only time he felt loved all his life. Noticing her son's poor test scores, she hugged him, saying, "Son, you'll do better next time. Just work a bit harder." Stunned, Ovbokhan asked, "Your mother did not flog you? She still hugged you after your poor performance?" Efosa laughed. Wouldn't she? Failing doesn't mean I deserve to be hated." Ovbokhan could not believe it. He explained how he never showed his parents his report cards because it would lead to a series of punishments and verbal abuses. Efosa told his mother that his friend Ovbokhan was a rare talent. Efosa's mom, noticing the sadness in his eyes and having listened to their conversation, walked up to Ovbokhan and hugged him and said, "You've got a gift, boy. You are always welcome in this home. We will help you whenever you need help." Over the next few years, Ovbokhan began spending more time in Efosa's house. He found solace there, away from the constant criticisms at home. His mother would scold him for neglecting chores, but Ovbokhan no longer cared. He knew he was working towards something, even though he wasn't sure what it was yet. 2 years later, Efosa barely passed his final exams but left the village to continue his studies in Lagos. Meanwhile, Ovbokhan remained behind, struggling to find his place. His family continued to pin their hopes on Ivie and Itoha, waiting for the day they would return and build them a new house. But life didn't turn out the way they expected. Ivie and Itoha got married and would often remind their parents that things were different now and that they had their families to cater for and that living in Lagos was expensive. They would always continue to promise building the house for their parents. Despite the gifts they brought during their visits, their mother, Mrs. Idemudia, always complained they were not enough. She turned her hopes from one to the other, hoping one of them will achieve financial success and rescue the family. Meanwhile, feeling more trapped than ever, Ovbokhan made the bold step to leave the village. Without telling his parents, he packed his things. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. And left for Lagos, hoping to forge his own path. To everyone's surprise, it was Ovbokhan who found success. With Efosa's support, he discovered a passion for fashion and worked tirelessly to perfect his craft. In time, Ovbokhan became one of the country's most celebrated fashion designers, far exceeding anyone's expectations. At his success, he lived in a most prestigious estate in Lagos with dozens of domestic staff at his beck and call. Years later, when their father became ill, it was Ovbokhan who paid for the life-saving surgery at a private hospital. The family, shocked and humbled, realized it was Ovbokhan, the child they once deemed worthless, had saved the day. When Ovbokhan returned to the village, he arrived in a convoy of luxury cars. The villagers thought the state governor was visiting, and people trooped out to receive him, while running after the vehicles to get a glimpse. Little did they know that it was the once despised good-for-nothing village boy they had all insulted and scorned at one time or another. Stepping out with quiet dignity, he addressed the villagers, promising scholarships for both academics and apprenticeships for the young ones. His aides quickly swung into action, registering names of interested young children. Several years later, it became obvious that prosperity had taken over the once impoverished village. Ovbokhan's footprints were everywhere. Though his family apologized and begged for forgiveness, Ovbokhan chose to please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment to keep his distance, focusing on his thriving career and empowering the youths in the village. He provided for his parents' needs, but the emotional gap between them remained. His success proved that he was always worthy, even when they did not see it. The stone they rejected became the chief cornerstone.